Good morning. I'm Shalina Durkot, horticulturist and garden coordinator at UT Gardens Crossville. We will continue our weekly walk through the garden with Dr. Bill Morgan. He and his wife Joy took the lead on the design, build, as well as maintain our native plant plot. Dr. Morgan is a strong advocate for conservation. He is former president of Obed Watershed Community Association. He also teaches several classes, including gardening with native plants, invasive species, and erosion control around our waterways.
Good morning, my name is Bill Morgan. I'm with the Master Gardeners, and today I'm going to talk about native plants and why they're important. By definition, native plants have lived in this locality for literally thousands of generations, even perhaps millions of generations. So they're highly adapted to the local conditions. Their temperature, rainfall, amount of sunshine during the year, and even the quality of the soil. And in fact, even some of the insect pests we find in this area. Since they are so highly adapted, they require little in the way of fertilizer and irrigation or anything of the sort, so they're very tolerant to drought and so forth. Not only that, they're very attractive, and I encourage people to come out at different times during the summer because we'll have different native plants blooming at different times, and you should get an appreciation for all kinds of different plants that we have blooming. Another thing that's very important about native plants is they have a very close association with their native insects. After all, our native plants and native insects have been living in the same environment for, again, millions of generations, so they're highly adapted to each other. The first plant I'm going to talk about this morning is butterfly weed. And I want to point out this is butterfly weed, it's not butterfly bush. Butterfly weed is the native plant. It's Eclipsis tuberosa. Earlier in the summer, until about the early part of July, there were very attractive orange flowers on this particular plant. Those orange flowers are very good about attracting native butterflies. The real important thing about butterfly weed is, believe it or not, it is in fact a milkweed. It is the critical food source for monarch caterpillars. If you don't have monarch caterpillars, you're not going to have monarch butterflies. And incidentally, this is a butterfly which is endangered, so it's very important to continue to have butterfly milkweeds. Okay, we're going to move along. Next thing we're going to talk about are black-eyed Susans. Black-eyed Susans bloom essentially the whole summer. They start blooming in late June, and they'll be blooming into August, maybe even to September. Very beautiful flowers. They don't need to be dead-headed. They are an excellent food source for our pollinators. And you may not be aware that pollinating insects are probably responsible worldwide for pollinating something like 35% of the foodstuffs that we as humans require. We move on to the next plant. This is Baptisia australis. It has very attractive deep blue flowers in the springtime. They are not blooming now, but you still have this very attractive green foliage. It will look very good in your home flower garden. Next plant I'm going to talk about is ironweed. Ironweed is not blooming now, but it will be blooming in August, maybe even into September. It'll have very attractive, small but very attractive purple flowers, and these flowers are just going to be covered with native bees, particularly bumblebees, and also butterflies. The next plant I want to talk about is the wild bergamot. This plant is blooming right now. It's a very attractive plant, very purple. It's very purple flowers. It attracts all kinds of pollinators. It's a good food source for pollinators. I always tell people that if you have a brown thumb, this is one plant you should have in your garden because they're very, very easy to grow, and they get quite tall and are very attractive. They're probably going to start going to seed in early August. Okay. Another plant I want to talk about, if you look behind the ironweed, you'll see coneflowers. These are purple coneflowers. They have two very important attributes. When they're blooming, they attract native bees. Native bees are probably our most important pollinators of plants in this area. When they start to go to seed, the seed pods are a very good food source for small birds particularly chickadees, for example, small birds that can sit on the stems. So we have two very important contributions. The last plant I want to talk about this morning is the coral honeysuckle. Not only does it have very attractive flowers which attract hummingbirds, as well as butterflies and native bees, but also look at the dense foliage. This particular plant, which we have an example of in our home native plant plot, in the summertime you'll see Carolina wrens, you'll see brown thrashers on the ground, you'll also see cardinals here, and you'll see chipmunks running around the bottom, so they provide a very nice habitat for small birds and animals during the summertime.